Friday flavoured news with Tom and Andrew, and a special guest behind me, Andrew. Can you see
He's
him there?
He's the little boy. He's the star. He's the star attraction of all of this right now.
I'll let you in on a little secret. I feel like a bad parent here, but he's currently watching a bird video on my laptop there.
But like, you see, you said this before, but I think it's great parenting because now you can just plug in that USB N64 controller and just play Zelda to your heart's content.
I know, but I feel like that parent that just fills their kid up with snacks and sits in front of the telly still. Even though I am playing Zelda to my heart's content. Just for any cat fans who are concerned, he has very limited screen time. Like that's going off in 20 minutes, and then we're going to go play in the living room. We'll shine the light or something. But I'll do some parenting, some quality cat parenting. But in the meantime, he can watch the cats and he can watch the birds, and you can watch the wrestling news. Which Raw star is currently out of action? An AEW star reveals why they were released from NXT. And the son of a WWE legend could be on their way to the company. Find out who in a little bit. We start with a SmackDown star that is out of action. Briefly made a return through the Royal Rumble, but now seems to be taking more time away. Who are we talking about, Andrew?
We are talking about big Braun Strowman. Which is a shame because he came back. He came back in phenomenal condition. Do you see his abs?
Oh,
you see his abs, Tom?
He's like a wall of muscle, that boy.
He really is. He really is.
So what's happened? So he posted on Instagram and gave us an update on why he's out of action.
He did. So it seems as though he's recovering from an infection that got into his blood system. So on Instagram, he said, so a little update. I've been gone off here for a bit. I got really sick over the weekend. I got an infection that got into my blood system. Had to get put on antibiotics for that. It was awful. I've dropped like 15 pounds in 5 days. Couldn't eat and stuff like that, but it looks like I've gained 50 pounds of water weight. All my joints and everything are all swollen and inflamed, but the antibiotics are working. I'm feeling better. We're going to nip this thing in the bud, get back to training, put that mask back on, and I'll be back to seeing you guys very soon. So at least it seems as though he's in good spirits. He seems to think he's on the mend, which is always good. And I just hope I hope he feels better soon, gets back in tip-top condition because he came back, he did make a big old impact, just like chucking Cesaro around and all this. And then in the Rumble, he did all his incredible stuff as well. Like, I hope he's good. I hope he's well.
I feel bad for any infection that has to enter Braun Strowman's body because I feel like it doesn't know what it's got itself into. We send best wishes to Braun Strowman, a former NXT star. Has cropped up on AEW, and it looks as if there's big things in the pipeline for Ryan Nemeth, the brother of Dolph Ziggler. He was featured on the Road to Dynamite very prominently, talking about how he wants to win championships in AEW. Didn't last that long against Pac, but there seems to be some momentum behind him there. He was on Insight with Chris Van Vliet, talking about why he was released from NXT. So what's the story here then, Andrew?
So on the podcast on Insight, he was saying it was working great for me when Dr. Tom Pritchard was head coach and John Laurinaitis was in charge of talent. I was getting treated fairly. Dusty Rhodes thought I was cool, which is a big thing. I think that's pretty cool. When Dusty Rhodes thinks you're cool, I'm down for that. They thought I was good at talking and handsome and going to be on TV right away, and I'll learn to wrestle as I go. That was going great for me. They literally had a top 10 list of talent back then, and I was 3. I felt like I didn't really feel as though I deserved to be in 3rd in this amazing group of people, but cool, I'll take it. He goes on to say, then almost overnight, someone else took over talent and someone else became head coach, and I didn't exist anymore, basically. When the new coach took over, it was super clear to me that this man didn't like me or that he didn't like my brother. He's not there anymore. I spoke to an NXT exec in the office and I said, hey, I think this coach doesn't like me and I'm kind of screwed. This executive at the time said, I can confirm that this is true. Ooh, that's not...
Jeez, what do you do with that information?
Yeah, what do you do with that information? Like, you seem to be on the up and up, and then all of a sudden that just gets shut down straight away just because someone doesn't like you. It just doesn't seem fair, does it?
Not in the slightest. So he pans forward a few months after this and says he had a phone call from the office, that same exec, and he says, hey, do you remember a few months ago we had that talk? And the exec says, yep. And Ryan says, is this what's happening now? And he said, Yep. And this is just how wrestling works, says Ryan. He basically said out loud, yes, you're getting fake fired and I can't stop it. That really sucks. It's one of those things where sometimes no matter how good you are and how much you're the right person at the right time, if the people in charge aren't a fan of what you're doing, then that's kind of the end of the road. And certainly there wasn't much love for Ryan Nemeth once there was a changing of the guard. I actually quite like his work. I think there's a big upside there. I think that I'm hoping that AEW maybe take him in and do something fun with him. I think there's some potential there. They're a talented family, the Nemeths, aren't they?
They really are. And he's just got such a natural heelness about him as well, kind of like just like his brother too. But I think with AEW putting him in the ring with Hangman and Pac and people of that sort of caliber, I think they obviously see something in him. And hopefully, we get more eyes on him and we build him up. We build him up because he'd be a fantastic heel in AEW. Like, he's got the comedic stuff as well down. I think he'd be a perfect fit.
All eyes this weekend on Vengeance Day for NXT. And Impact No Surrender. Yeah, that too on Saturday. Just putting that out there. But we are talking Vengeance Day at this point because Finn Balor was talking to the New York Post. And he let in that whilst he says he is on top form, still some nagging injuries on his front. What's he been saying, Andrew?
So he said that, as you said, he's still in pain, still very reluctant to get any type of strike to the face, which was actually something that led to the arm injury in the match versus Kyle O'Reilly, the second match that they had. I was protecting the jaw so much, I actually weakened my arm. And he also goes on to say, one thing that still hasn't come back is the feeling in my bottom lip. It's still numb. It's like I've been to the dentist and you get that shot. Pretty much my bottom lip down to my chin, I've still got no feeling, but the doctors are a little hopeful that might come back in a couple of months. They say nerves take a little bit longer to heal. Sometimes you'll see me out there now, and if I'm doing a promo, licking my bottom lip more, or I'll be rubbing it a little bit. It still feels like there's Novocaine in there, and it's numb. It gets dry a lot, but apart from that, I feel 100%. So... yeah,
I'm very nervous for him. I think because I love Finn Balor so much, and it's hard because he's so good. You can't tell sometimes how much of this is him working and how much of this is actually, this is a bit of an issue. Like and this weekend he's in there with Pete Dunne, who's a hard hitter.
That's exactly what my first thought was. Like, if he's trying to protect it all the time, I think this match is going to go pretty hard. There's going to be some stiff strikes, and part of me was like. We'll get into predictions, so I won't say anything, but part of me was like, is this sort of a chance for him to maybe drop the belt and then take a bit of time off to fully recover? I don't know. I'm not sure.
Spoiler for Andrew's predictions. In the predictions video, which will be on the Cultaholic YouTube channel a little after this one. Speaking of TakeOver, staying with it, there was a conference call that was held yesterday with Paul Levesque leading it. Andrew, rest your voice. I'll go through these. I'll run the notes on this one.
Thank you.
So Paul Levesque taking calls and questions at the end after talking through the card. On the subject of Edge possibly facing Finn Balor at WrestleMania, Triple H says everything is on the table. No matter what happens at Mania, he could see Edge come to NXT at some point. So potentially putting the feelers out there that the Mania match between him and Finn won't happen, but Edge may work in NXT down the road. How do we feel about Edge doing stuff in NXT down the road, Andrew?
I feel good. I feel really good about it. I remember him like a little bit ago, maybe, I think it was, I can't remember what it was on. It was a podcast or something, but he really was singing the praises of Finn Balor, and I mean, I would be down for seeing them two go for one another, because he seems to be, as I said before on either a news video or something, I was like, in that NXT promo, he genuinely seemed really excited about the prospect of maybe fighting with some of these younger, I say younger guys, some of them are a little bit older and more experienced now, but with some of these people that he's never really been in the ring with before, and that kind of matchup I think would be fantastic. I'd be all for that. What about you, Tom?
Love to see it. I think Edge would be somebody that you could just drop in for a little bit of time and, as you say, work some magic with some guys down there and build some talent there. I think now everybody will say, well, NXT, I think the idea that NXT is the developmental brand was something that I talked about a lot last year, but it's obvious now that is not the case. There is it is not so much that it's a developmental brand anymore. I think that's why we're seeing companies, WWE doing stuff with stuff like people like ICW and things like that. That will kind of become the new NXT when they work with some more indie promotions. This is more like a third brand. So Edge going over there to push that up, I think would be an absolute benefit. But in terms of working with Raw and SmackDown more, the questions were asked about whether or not NXT will be a part of WrestleMania and whether NXT would have any involvement in Elimination Chamber. When it comes to WrestleMania, Triple H said that everyone wants a spot of Mania and he'd love for NXT to be a part of it. But obviously, normally with takeover weekends, they already kind of are. But he says if it makes sense to do it, then they will. And when it comes to Elimination Chamber, Triple H not keen on putting NXT guys inside the Elimination Chamber, saying that he's happy with the fact that Raw and SmackDown have their own things. NXT has its own thing like War Games. NXT UK has the Heritage Cup. One of these things is not like the other. Keeping them separate, he says, is a good thing. On the subject of more titles, particularly in the women's divisions, Triple H says he doesn't want to add any more titles unless there's a reason to do so. He says the women's division is enlarging and it may warrant adding a title. And finally, this was the one. This is a pretty big story coming away from this. Triple H answered a question regarding talent from around the world getting fast-tracked to NXT. He said that a lot of international talent needs seasoning and needs to learn the WWE way. It's up to them to learn and get seasoned. He then name-dropped some interesting people. Parker Boudreaux was mentioned in a question, who is the guy, you've seen this guy, haven't you, Andrew? He's like a mini Brock Lesnar.
He's insane.
I say mini Brock Lesnar. He's massive, but you know what I mean.
As Brock would say in the Royal Rumble when he's waving his arms like that, ooh, big boy. Oh, big boy him.
Big boy. Nani. So that name was mentioned, but then also Triple H, without prompting, mentioned Bronson Recksteiner, the son of legendary tag team performer Rick Steiner, and described Bronson as, quote, coming in the door, which suggests to me that Bronson is a great fit for WWE. He's got all the attributes that you need. He's got that sort of legendary wrestling pedigree through his heritage, through his dad, and obviously his uncle Scott. He's got American football chops as well. Looks the part. Definitely would be somebody they have their eye on. Have you seen anything of Bronson by any chance, Andrew? Not really.
Not really. I was having getting prepared for the news and stuff. I was browsing through some things, and he's also quite a big boy, quite a big boy. But he looks as though he's got the sort of like back in the day with Rick and Scott. He's got that agility though as well. Obviously, that comes from that like football background, I guess, as well. Me and Sam were talking about this the other day and saying that WWE seemed to not have as many big boys as what they used to have, like big horsemen, and it would be cool to see more monsters in WWE, but like agile ones though as well that can go with the smaller guys, because they're always fun matchups, aren't they? When you get a smaller guy with another big guy that can do the flips and all the cool stuff, yeah, I like the sound of that. I'm a big fan of more big boys in WWE. Actually, on that note to end on, nice happy note to end on, congratulations to Keith Lee and Mia Yim, who have announced their engagement. Mia Yim put onto Twitter last night with a lovely picture of the engagement ring. So since we're talking about big boys, just thought I'd throw in a happy engagement to Keith and Mia Yim. And if you need me and Ross to sing at the wedding, we absolutely will. Back for more news later. Stay safe. Love you. Bye.